In this episode, we will discuss classic science fiction and comedy, and also one of the earlier soap operas produced by a famous science fiction producer. This is British Broadcast, A History of Lost Television. Dad's Army. Dad's Army needs no introduction. It's probably one of the most recognisable and well-loved shows of its time and in the history of television sitcoms. It's the 3 missing episodes that fascinates me, however. The programme ran for 9 series between 1968 and 1977, and 3 out of the 6 episodes from Series 2 and 2 of the 4 Christmas sketches, 1968 and 1970, are missing, as the BBC routinely reused their videotapes like any other show. The first 2 series, comprised of 12 episodes, were made in black and white, with almost all episodes made on 2-inch quad videotape for initial broadcast. The first series was thought to have commercial potential overseas, and was offered for sale to foreign broadcasters by BBC Enterprises. To this end, 16mm film copies were made of the first 6 episodes by the BBC engineering department before the video master tapes were wiped, and these were retained by the film unit. However, in the end, the first series sold very poorly, and so BBC Enterprises did not express any interest in selling Series 2 abroad. This caused very few film copies of Series 2 episodes to actually be made. Dad's Army was made in colour from Series 3 onwards, and overseas interest in the series picked up, with its growing popularity. Subsequently, BBC Enterprises resumed offering the episodes for sale in film and video format. This meant they were more likely to be permanently retained. While Series 2 remains incomplete, the situation was originally much worse. Until 2001, only one episode, Sergeant Wilson's Little Secret, was known to exist due to surviving as a 35mm negative, shot and edited on film. Videotape was not used either due to the episode requiring additional editing, or the videotape recording facilities required was not available. In 1998, David Croft made an appeal on BBC Two, asking people if they held any off-air video copy of the 5 remaining episodes. Sure enough, 3 years later, 2 more episodes, Operation Kilt and The Battle of Godfrey's Cottage, were returned as 16mm film copies. It has since been established that the 2 episodes were telerecorded to show to executives at Columbia Pictures in order to discuss the structure of the Dad's Army feature film. The film copies were then junked and retrieved from a skip by an opportunistic collector, and stored in a garden shed for 30 years until returned to the BBC. 2 of the 4 Christmas sketches I mentioned earlier were aired as Christmas Night with the Stars specials. The 1968 entry was called Santa on Patrol, and the 1970 entry Cornish Floral Dance, both of which were made in colour. They remain missing, but audio recordings of both have been recovered. The 3 Series 2 episodes that remain missing are The Loneliness of the Long Distance Walker, A Stripe for Frasier, and Under Fire. The only currently remaining hope for recovery is either that the lost episodes were recorded off-air during their original UK broadcasts using an early videotape recorder such as the Shabaden or Sony CV2000 machine, or 16mm telerecordings saved from being junked. However, these 3 episodes were amongst the 67 adapted for BBC Radio in the 1970s, and recordings for the radio episodes still exist. A complete audio recording of A Stripe for Frasier was also discovered in a private collection in 2008, and the episode was made available as a remastered soundtrack in a CD audiobook format on the now defunct BBC store in 2015. The episode was later animated in 2016, produced and directed for BBC Worldwide by Charles Norton and a team that included comic book artist Martin Geraghty. Pre-production had begun in October 2015, and the animation was completed in roughly 12 weeks. No audio recordings of the other 2 episodes are known to exist, meaning the only way to enjoy the original episodes as intended in some capacity is the radio show versions. By the 1990s, Room at the Bottom, the 6th episode of Series 3, was the only episode produced in colour that did not have a colour copy in the archive. Instead, it survived only as a 16mm black and white telerecording. Because of the way in which the original black and white telerecordings were made, colour information was sometimes inadvertently preserved in them even though it could not be displayed. Room at the Bottom was used as the pilot project to test the chroma-dot process of colour recovery, with the success of the episode's restoration leading to it being used on other 16mm telerecordings, most famously Doctor Who and The Morecambe and Wise Show. Room at the Bottom was broadcast in colour for the first time in almost 40 years on the 13th of December 2008. In 2018, UK TV announced plans to recreate the 3 missing episodes for broadcast on its Gold channel under the title Dad's Army, The Lost Episodes. Mercury Productions, the company responsible for saluting Dad's Army, Gold's 50th anniversary tribute series, produced the episodes, directed by Ben Keller. The recreations were broadcast in 2019, coinciding with the 50th anniversary of their original broadcast on the BBC. The recreated episodes were released on Blu-ray on the 25th of November 2019. While the Christmas sketches have received no animations or live-action remakes, all original episodes that serve as a part of the core series are now viewable in some capacity. At Last, the 1948 Show. At Last, the 1948 Show is a satirical television show made by David Frost's company, Paradigm Productions, although it was not credited on the programme, in association with Rediffusion London. Transmitted on Britain's ITV network in 1967, it brought Cambridge Footlights humour to a broader audience. The show starred Tim Brooke-Taylor, Graham Chapman, John Cleese, Marty Feldman, and Amy MacDonald. Cleese and Brooke-Taylor were also the programme editors. The director was Ian Fordyce. Chapman and Cleese would later be among the founders of the Monty Python comedy troupe, and several of the sketches first performed in At Last, the 1948 Show would later be performed by Monty Python in various formats. Monty Python's catchphrase, and now for something completely different, parodying a phrase often used on Blue Peter, originated in At Last, the 1948 Show, and was originally spoken by Amy MacDonald. Frost originally approached Cleese, Chapman, and Brooke-Taylor to star in a sketch series. They suggested Marty Feldman, until then a comedy writer. The series also bridged the radio series I'm Sorry, I'll Read That Again, and television's The Goodies. It also led to Feldman's television series Marty, which also featured Tim Brooke-Taylor. The show had no relationship to the year 1948. According to Cleese, it simply referred to television executives' tendency to dither extensively over commissioning decisions. The series was videotaped at what was later Fountain Studios, Wembley Park in Wembley. A total of 13 25-minute episodes were made within a year, 6 in the first series and 7 in the second. Thames Television wiped the material once they had acquired Rediffusion London Archive, and all but 2 episodes were destroyed. John Cleese became aware of the tapes from 2 surviving episodes after Feldman's wife left them to him in her will. 5 compilation episodes for Swedish television also survived. Much missing material has been recovered in video, and surviving video has been restored by the British Film Institute. The majority of a previously missing episode, Season 2, Episode 6, broadcast on the 31st of October 1967, was recovered from a private collector in May 2010. On the 23rd of October 2014, the BFI announced film copies of 2 previously missing episodes, the first and final episodes of the series, broadcast on the 15th of February and the 7th of November in 1967. They were recovered from the private collection of executive producer David Frost. A year later, the BFI announced the recovery of another 2 episodes from a fan's collection, with one of the new recoveries, the 3rd episode of the first series, broadcast on the 1st of March, to be screened at the Radio Times Festival at Hampton Court on the 25th of September 2015. Out of an original total of 13 episodes, 11 now exist in complete or near complete form, while 2 remain incomplete. 5 minutes and 45 seconds exist for Series 1, Episode 2, and 18 minutes and 30 seconds exist for Series 2, Episode 1. While most surviving episodes are from original tapes or telerecordings, 2 of the complete episodes have been reconstructed from footage recovered from 5 compilation tapes returned from Sweden. The 2 incomplete episodes' surviving footage also comes from these compilations. The complete audio of all 13 episodes exist, recorded off-air by several fans. Some episodes are also missing video fractions, such as end credits or, in one case, a musical performance, the Rhubarb Tart song from the final episode. After several DVD releases of patchy surviving footage in 2005, 12, and 15 with low-quality imagery, even for the age of the material, the BFI finally released a restored, near-complete 3-disc box set with all surviving footage on the 16th of September 2019, including audio-only portions of the missing material. In 2020, the series was made available on BritBox. A hunt for the still missing footage continues to this day, although John Cleese appears to have moved on to far superior programming in recent years, so I'm sure it doesn't matter. Doomwatch. Doomwatch is a British science fiction television programme produced by the BBC, which ran on BBC One between 1970 and 1972. The series was set in contemporary time, and dealt with a scientific government agency led by Dr. Spencer Quist, played by John Paul, who was responsible for investigating and combating various ecological and technological dangers. The programme was created by Jerry Davis and which explored new and unusual threats to the human race, many bred out of fear of real scientific concepts, with a "this could happen to us" angle. The formal name of the protagonist's organisation was Department for the Observation and Measurement of Scientific Work. Officially, Doomwatch was an agency dedicated to preserving the world from dangers of unprincipled scientific research. In the words of one character, "We were set up to investigate any scientific research, public or private, which could possibly be harmful to man." Its actual intended purpose was to form a body with little power meant in order to stifle public protest and secure green votes. However, the incorruptible Spencer Quist and his allies soon gave the agency some actual power and influence. The first two series each consisted of 13 episodes, and the third of 12, of which one, titled Sex and Violence, was not transmitted. It has been suggested that this was because of objections to either its use of stock news footage of a public execution in Lagos, or its presentation of characters designed to be satirical analogues of Mary Whitehouse, Cliff Richard, and Lord Longford. The execution footage has appeared on British television a number of times since 1972, notably in a 1988 edition of Panorama about violence on television. Doomwatch was popular, and at its peak drew audiences as high as 13.6 million for the episode Invasion, filmed mostly in the village of Grassington in North Yorkshire. The start of every series merited a cover feature on the BBC's Radio Times listings magazine, which even today is a prestigious feat for a programme. The series was sold abroad, gaining some popularity when transmitted in Canada. As was common at the time, the BBC wiped Doomwatch master tapes soon after transmission, considering them as being of little further use. Although some episodes have been returned from Canada or exist as telerecordings, many are still missing and will probably remain so, although are still being sought by the BBC Archive treasure hunt as a whole. However, a copy of the unbroadcast episode survives in the archives, one of only 3 from the final series to do so. Series 2 is complete thanks to the returns from Canada, but Series 1 is missing 5 episodes. All of the existing episodes, other than Sex and Violence, were repeated on the satellite channel UK Gold during the 1990s, although that episode was erroneously published in broadcast schedules. The complete series is available on DVD. The show was adapted into film by Tygon British Film Productions in 1972, and Channel 4 attempted to revive it after buying the rights and producing a feature-length pilot in 1999, but the pilot never went to series. A for Andromeda. A for Andromeda is a British television science fiction drama serial first made and broadcast by the BBC in 7 parts in 1961. Written by cosmologist Fred Hoyle, in conjunction with author and television producer John Elliott, it concerns a group of scientists who detect a radio signal from another galaxy that contains instructions for the design of an advanced computer. When the computer is built, it gives the scientists instructions for the creation of a living organism named Andromeda, but one of the scientists, John Fleming, fears that Andromeda's purpose is to subjugate humanity. The serial was the first major role for actress Julie Christie, but only one of the 7 episodes survived the archival purge. After the tapes were wiped, all known film copies were junked, but episode 6, The Face of the Tiger, was recovered and donated by a private collector in 2006. This was a 16mm film copy, presumably the same one junked by the BBC decades prior. This copy, perhaps affected by junking damage or editing for future/foreign broadcast, is missing the pre-credit sequence of Professor Reinhardt's interview. A number of film clips from episodes 1, 2, 3, and 7 also exist, as does a full audio-only copy of episode 7, taken from an off-air recording. A complete set of off-air photographs, known as telesnaps, were taken by John Chura of all 7 episodes and are held in the collection of Michael Hayes. The series was later remade twice in 1971 in Italian as A Come Andromeda, and as a feature-length live broadcast remake shown on BBC 4 in 2006. It was also succeeded by a 6-part sequel, The Andromeda Breakthrough, which survives intact and was released alongside the surviving material of A for Andromeda on DVD. The Newcomers. The Newcomers was a late 1960s BBC soap opera which dealt with the subject of a London family, the Coopers, who moved to a housing estate in the fictional country town of Angleton. It was broadcast in bi-weekly half-hour episodes from October 1965 until November 1969. It was initially produced by Verity Lambert of Doctor Who and Adam Adamant fame. A fictional light industrial manufacturing company called Eden Brothers decides to relocate to the rural location. There are conflicts with the older members of the existing community, as well as some lighter moments as urbanites encounter country characters. Many of the relocated workers have trouble living outside the city. As the series progresses, problems on the factory floor spill over into the community. Throughout this, the Coopers strive to raise their daughter and 2 sons, who were having their own issues. The Cooper and Harker families were the initial focus of the series. The on-screen sudden death of the character of Ellis Cooper led to a gradual shift away from the Coopers, who by the end of the serial barely featured. The series produced 430 episodes between 1965 and 69, only 5 of which have survived. Episode 51 from March 1966, Episode 59 from April 1966, Episode 166 from May 1967, Episode 172 from May 1967, and Episode 222 from December 1967. No episodes from 1965 or 68 and 9 are known to exist. The Caves of Steel is a television play made by the BBC and broadcast on BBC Two on the 5th of June 1964 as part of an anthology strand called Story Parade, which specialised in adaptations of modern novels. It was based on a novel of the same name by writer Isaac Asimov, one of the most renowned science fiction authors of his day. It starred Peter Cushing as Elijah Bailey and John Carson as R. Daniel Oliver. The adaptation was the brainchild of Story Parade story editor Irene Shubik, who was an enthusiast of science fiction since university, once describing Asimov as one of the most interesting and amusing men I have ever met. Shubik had previously devised and story-edited the science fiction anthology series Out of This World, which had adapted Asimov's short story Little Lost Robot in 1962. The adaptation of the novel was handled by Terry Nation, who by now had achieved worldwide fame as the creator of the Daleks for Doctor Who. The screenplay was generally faithful to the plot of the novel. The only major deviation was the conclusion. In the television version, the murderer commits suicide when he is unmasked, although in the novel he agrees to work to convince the medievalists to change their ways. The other major change is that the roboticist, Dr. Jerigel, is a female character in the television version. The Caves of Steel garnered good reviews from various publications, such as the Daily Telegraph and The Listener, the latter citing the play as the best of the Story Parade series. It was repeated on BBC One on the 28th of August 1964, due to its success. As was common practice at the time, the master videotape for The Cave of Steel was wiped sometime after broadcast, and the play remains missing. A few short extracts, believed to have sourced from an incomplete telerecording, have survived. The opening titles and the murder of Sartan, Elijah and Danil meeting Dr. Jerigel, and Elijah and Danil confronting the medievalist Klausar. The success of The Caves of Steel led Irene Shubik to devise the science fiction anthology series Out of the Unknown, during which she oversaw the adaptation of 6 more Asimov stories, including The Cave of Steel's sequel, The Naked Sun. Viewers lucky enough to have caught The Caves of Steel in 1964 would be relieved to see the story continued 5 years later, although with a different cast and in colour. The Naked Sun is also a missing play, with only production stills and audio extracts known to exist.